Here's a list of the top 20 strongest beings in Dandadan. Last on the list at number 20 is Kuki Yukushiro. She doesn't need brute strength or killer transformations. All she needs is a piano, some peer pressure, and she can flip the whole battlefield with her new power, Lord of the Flies, which is the only reason Kinta didn't make this list. We first saw Kuki as a villain in the Kozuka Knives arc. Murakami gave her the power to control pygmies and sent her to steal Momo's powers. She did give some trouble to Aira and Okarun, who had lost his granny powers, until Momo threw a table on her face and knocked her down. After the fight, she teamed up with the MC gang now to deal with Murakami and clashed with the Headless Dribblers. Let's be real, Kuki's biggest W in the entire series is surviving long enough to switch sides. Honestly, in my opinion, Kinta could take her if she loses focus or when nervous. The Dribblers dunked her down the hoop as soon as the fight started. If Aira hadn't saved her with a reverse dunk, she would have lost her life. She controlled a swarm of insects and managed to capture Murakami, who almost escaped. But I do have to admit though, her new ability did look powerful. It just drained her stamina, dry in seconds. She was like an old JBL speaker, works great for 2 minutes, and then needs recharging for the rest of the arc. Next up is the Flatwoods Monster, who's packed with monstrous power but somehow lost to 2 rookie kids and a grandma, even after cheating. Flatwoods Monster had more raw strength and durability than Turbo Granny ever did though. It just didn't have plot armor. We saw it in chapter 2. It was built like a sumo wrestler, big, bulky, and definitely did not skip leg day for 6 years. It fought with brute force, but also had surprising abilities like poison gas. It got up close and personal with its opponents, unlike Kuki, who only fought from a distance using her pygmies and insects. When it showed up, Flatwoods had the upper hand. The duo barely did any damage to it, until Momo figured out a way to beat it with sumo wrestling rules. So, in sumo, the goal is to make any part of your opponent's body touch the ground other than the soles of their feet. Momo and Okarun worked together to make the monster's arm touch the ground, and boom, its arm disappeared. They're about to win the fight, almost, but the Flatwoods Monster turned out to be a big fat cheater. It grew a pair of legs from its back and just kept fighting. Like that arm touch never happened or something. Wow, what a gaslighter. After that, it attacked Momo, pounding her against the wall by the Torii Gate. But Momo had a plan. When she was punched through the wall, she stuck the talisman back in place. And as soon as she did, the monster started to burn, faster than your attention span on Instagram, and disappeared like it was never there. But remember, the monster didn't lose because Momo beat her in combat. It lost because of a spiritual boundary rule, which is like saying a vampire's weak because you opened a curtain. The power was still there. And number 18 is Mr. Mantis Shrimp. Even though he's the weakest among his species, he's still among the strongest in Dandadan. While the Flatwoods Monster used its brute strength, Mr. Peeny Weeny came in with amazing boxing skills and a powerful transformation. We saw this power in his first appearance. His punches shattered concrete walls and sent Aira flying into the ceiling. And he grows even stronger, like by 10 times when he's in water. Later during the Space Globalist arc, in his transformed state, he destroyed a core exosuit with his jet punch, which is super durable. But even with all his power, he's still considered as one of the weakest among his own species. Even though Mr. Peeny Weeny hit harder than Okarun ever has, and maybe ever can, Peeny still needed psychic training wheels just to land a punch. In his first fight with Aira, she dodged every single punch of his. It's only after the Serpo interfered, locking her down with their psychic powers, that he was able to land a punch. I mean, without PEDs, even his transformed state only lasts for 24 seconds. Finally, someone faster than me. Take that, Samantha. Next up at 17 are the Serpo. They bend minds, they steal body parts, they hire muscle, hack your brain, and bring scissors to very sensitive fights. The Serpo aren't just villains. They're invasive, creepy, and terrifyingly strategic. Even Rokuro Serpo, the screw-up of the species, became a top-tier threat the moment he got his hands on nanoskin. Meanwhile, Kuki needed a whole new power to stay relevant. Serpo have been around since chapter 1, and the longer we see them, the weirder they get. They don't fight fair, or even directly for that matter. Honestly, they just outsource their fights. They aren't actually that strong. They just hire other aliens like Mr. Mantis Shrimp and the Flatwoods Monster to do their fighting. But it's not like they don't have any abilities at all. They can create psychic fields and disrupt brainwaves. And that's not all. Oh no, things get weird. Like, really weird. For starters, they've got these, let's just call them tools, biological ones, and they're designed to extract the female reproductive organs. Yeah. And if you're a guy, they've got scissors to steal your junk. It's almost like this race was created to be intergalactic perverts. And that's not all. They can fuse with other life forms like they did with Nessie and Mr. Mantis Shrimp in Chapter 23, creating a monster hybrid that took 3 fighters to bring down. Since Serpo are all clones, they all have the same skills. But there is one exception, Rokuru Serpo. After he got kicked out of the squad for spending too much time with Momo's family, Mr. Mantis Shrimp gave him some nanoskin, and he got an upgrade. And number 16 is Aira Shirai. She danced with the grace of a ballerina and struck like a bullet. But take away her momentum, and the storm becomes a breeze. At first, she was just a normal high school student. Then she played around with Okarun's ball, which awakened her powers, and she started seeing spirits. But things really changed when Acrobatic Silky passed on her aura to Aira. Her aura to Aira, get it? She unlocked her spirit transformation that gave her incredible speed and strength. She was so fast that her opponents struggled to even touch her. Like in her fistfight against Mantis Shrimp, she dodged every punch he threw like it was nothing. She only got hit after the Serpo interfered. In her transformed state, like Acrobatic Silky, Aira could also use her hair like a weapon. She used it to yank enemies off their feet and pull herself across the battlefield like Spider-Man. Aira is definitely stronger than Serpo. In Chapter 66, she actually grabbed a car with just her hair and threw it at a supersized Bamora, slowing her down, which is a lot more than what the Serpo could ever do against an exosuit. Later in Chapter 108, Aira pulled out a brand new move called the Pirouette Noble Drill. She turned her hair into a freaking drill and she took down one of the core in a single hit. It was like ballet met Beyblade. The only problem with her is that speed is all she's got. And when she got tied down, she almost became useless. Next on the list is Acrobatic Silky. She's like the Rapunzel of Dandadan, but she's looking for blood instead of Prince Charming. Silky would have been a much bigger threat if she had more screen time. She's also the yokai that was dealt with in the shortest possible time. It's almost like she was added in the story just to give her powers to Aira, who by the way still hasn't unlocked her full powers. Silky is based on the urban legend of Aku Sara, like actually in real life, also known as Acrobatic Sara Sara. The legend says that anyone who sees her acrobatics would be cursed with misfortune and sometimes even death. She could do pretty much anything with her hair, use it like a whip, grab people and toss them around, even swing through the air. In Chapter 14, in her fight with Okarun and Momo, she took it to the next level and straight up destroyed an entire building with a spinning hair attack. She also had insane acrobatic skills, super speed, crazy agility, and lightning fast reflexes. Don't get me wrong, she did give some trouble to Momo and Okarun, but it wasn't enough. And number 14 is Bamora. She survived a world ruled by monsters and pilots a god-tier kaiju suit. Unlike Acrobatic Silky, who uses her yokai powers, Bamora pilots this insanely cool exosuit that looks just like a kaiju, modeled after the Sumerian god. Even though we don't see her in action by herself, she's a Sumerian who has managed to survive on the planet ruled by Kur. This means that she has some decent combat and survival skills. She's strong, no doubt, but let's be honest, most of that power comes from her tech. Without the kaiju suit, she doesn't really bring much to the table. And that's kind of a big point when you're comparing her to fighters like Momo and Aira, who can still throw down even without any upgrades. Bamora's fighting style is simple. Walk up, throw hands, ask questions, never. Gotta give it to her. The girl's versatile though. In the battle against the giant Bodhisattva robot, she comes out swinging, landing heavy blows and completely overpowering it in the beginning. And just when you think that's all she's got, boom, she starts using the kaiju suit's tail like a weapon too. And number 13 is Anji Zuma. Anji would have been the main character if Dandadan was a tragedy. Dead brother, cursed power, killer moves, and zero plot armor. That's a protagonist. What the F? Anji has much better combat IQ than Okarun. His abilities are also way more suited for combat compared to Okarun, or maybe he just knows how to use them better. While Bamora focuses on her suit for combat, Anji relies on his yokai powers, which he awakened after he chased Okarun's balls. Bro really has people thirsting from both sides, it's crazy. In a fight, Anji's an absolute beast. When he transforms, he gets a huge boost in strength and speed. During the Danmaru arc, he knocked out an entire squad of archers with one kick. And then he casually chucked an umbrella and wiped out another group like it was no big deal. He can also fire off massive shockwaves from his umbrella, like he did in chapter 136. These shockwaves hit hard, destroying everything in their path. And there's so much recoil that Anji can actually launch himself through the air, which he did in chapter 150. Here's the catch. Anji can only open 2 umbrellas before his powers go into cooldown, like a CPU back in 2001. So without the risk of dying, he can't really put up much of a fight. In chapter 148, when he got possessed by the fairy tale card, he was able to use more than 2 shockwaves, but this seriously damaged his body. Next up is the Serpo-Dover demon Nessie. It was a perfect fusion. Strength, speed, and no weaknesses. But actually, its biggest weakness was its own strength. Let's be honest, if the fusion didn't self-destruct, it might have actually won. It didn't lose because it was weaker. It lost because Momo figured out the physics equation. That arm-ripping moment was self-inflicted. Without that flaw, it could have ended the fight in a few more swings. Unlike Anji Zuma, whose power came from personal tragedy, the Serpo-Dover Nessie relies on brute force and a fusion to become a threat. In chapter 23, when Nessie and Mantis Shrimp were losing, a Serpo fused with them to create a hybrid. The creature had the Serpo head, the body of Nessie, and the arms of Mr. Mantis Shrimp. The fusion gave the monster the best of all 3. It could throw even stronger punches underwater and blast high-pressure water jets straight from its mouth. At first, the monster overwhelmed the team, punching Aira and keeping Okarun and Momo at bay with relentless beam attacks. But Momo discovered its weakness. Just when the monster was about to punch, she used her psychokinesis to split the water. So here's Momo using physics. The force of the punch was so intense, it actually tore its own arms apart. And number 11 is Momo Ayase. After one alien encounter, Momo unlocked powers that put her on a whole new level. And this wasn't even her final form. Her battle IQ is definitely higher than anyone else's, including Okarun, Aira, and even Turbo Granny. Also, she's easily one of the strongest humans on this list. From chapter 1, she was already throwing hands, literally kicking a Serpo so hard it blew up their ship. The only reason she's not ranked higher is because she hasn't hit her full potential yet, and lacks the experience of someone like her grandma. Her main ability is psychokinesis, which appears as giant hands that can extend, lift massive objects, and interact with anything. She used it to part water like Moses, and even threw a fire truck at a house in chapter 44 like she was Hawk's cousin. But it's not just about power. Momo's got brains too. She figured out the Flatwoods Monster's abilities mid-fight and outsmarted it, while getting beat up. She also tangled up Acrobatic Silky's hair using Okarun's movements. At number 10 is Evil Eye. It's not a schemer like the Serpo. It's just pure pain reincarnated. Its power didn't come from training or fusion, it came from trauma. Wow, sounds like my childhood. And all he wanted was to traumatize others. Imagine being a yokai trapped in a sacrificial house, forced to watch others get sacrificed just like it. While Momo fought with strategy and psychic power, Evil Eye relied on raw curse powers and brute force. In chapter 40, it possessed Gigi. With Gigi's insanely strong physique, the Evil Eye became a total powerhouse. He sent the Tsuchinoko worm flying with a single hit. Its main ability was a deadly glare that cursed victims into suicide. It also used a grudge ball, a deadly ball of compressed curses. It could bounce off walls and lock onto its target like a homing missile. In chapter 41, he kicked it with so much force it went straight through the Tsuchinoko worm's head. And then there was a cursed house, basically a barrier made of his own energy. Nothing says stress release like building your own murder house. It worked both as a trap and a defense, and it could only be broken by someone as strong as Evil Eye himself. Next up is Okarun. Here's the thing, Momo is the real MVP of their duo. Okarun is just there for emotional support and running fast. While Okarun's darting around, it's Momo setting the traps, making the calls, and figuring out enemy weaknesses. Even without Turbo Granny's powers, he would be on this list to be honest, just because of the popularity of his balls. Compared to Evil Eye, who uses overwhelming strength and curse powers, Okarun used his speed to bring enemies down. Take his fight with the Tsuchinoko for example. He cuts its head off, clean, in an instant. Sure, it regenerated, but that first strike showed just how fast and dangerous he'd become. His main move was called All Out, which was basically he'd run at 100 km per hour and attack his enemies with lightning fast squats and headbutts. He first used his All Out against the Serpo. When he fought the Flatwoods Monster, he listened to Momo's advice, and that helped bring it down. When he fought with Acrobatic Silky, he used his speed to tangle her hair up in the building, which was also actually Momo's idea. And when he fought Evil Eye, the second time, Okarun had gotten way more used to his powers and completely wrecked him. The problem was that Okarun could only use All Out twice in a row, but during the Danmara arc, he pushed past his limits and used his powers a third time. Now nothing particularly happened, but his form did change, slightly. Separately, something to take note of is Count Saint Germaine is kind of wary of Okarun. While with other people he tried to fight and steal their powers, with Okarun he just tried to trick him to steal them. Eventually though, once everyone stopped playing with his balls and he got them back, he returned the powers to Turbo Granny, we know that, right? And number 8 is a fairy tale card. It's the kind of yokai that doesn't break you with force, but with silence, possession, and the slow erasure of everything that makes you human. The thing is, for a quick second it made Count Saint Germaine look like a sidekick. You know, just one of the most powerful people in the Dandadan universe. While Okarun fought with speed, the fairy tale card was the complete opposite. Slow, methodical, and terrifyingly manipulative. One's a fighter, the other's a walking horror puzzle with cheat codes. It took the combined efforts of Okarun, Rokuro, Anji, and Count Saint Germaine to beat it. With Anji under its control, it dominated the battlefield until Okarun knocked him down with all his strength. Apart from possession, it could also erase body parts, like it did to Rin's mouth in chapter 160. It erased the mouths and ears of almost everyone fighting. It even possessed some of them and made them fight each other. And number 7 is Pyasi. He fights in the shadows, but only becomes more dangerous when you shine a light on him. He's the most efficient killer in Dandadan, more dangerous than Evil Eye or Anji. Evil Eye throws around curses like a wrecking ball. Anji's all shockwaves and big moves, but Pyasi just has a shadow. Clearly he's from Yu-Gi-Oh! I summon from the Shadow Realm. Some people trained for years to be powerful. Pyasi just showed up once, dropped one shadow spike, and said that's enough screen time. He was a cursed object collector and the mysterious partner of Kashimoto, and when they came to take the cursed trunk from Seiko in chapter 177, things escalated. That's when Pyasi revealed what he was really capable of. He transformed, covering himself completely in darkness. In this shadow form, he could manipulate and move through shadows and sneak attack his opponents. With his big move, sweeping through darkness, he can extend his shadow into a sharp spike. And the wildest part was that his powers grew stronger in bright light. And number 6 is Kashimoto. When he fights, it's not just about strength. It's elemental, unstoppable, and colder than death. In terms of raw destructive power, Kashimoto definitely stands at the top of this list. Even Pyasi falls short. We first met Kashimoto in chapter 177. He was the guy that Seiko turned to when she needed help reversing a curse. That alone should tell you how serious this guy is. Seiko asked him how to return Momo to her normal size, and just as he was about to help, boom, they were ambushed by a horde of Jiangshi and a massive iron minotaur. That's when he unleashed his trump card, his guardian spirit. It took the form of a flaming phoenix, but with ice powers. And these freezing flames weren't just to turn people into popsicles, they boosted his physical strength too. One punch and the iron minotaur, this massive heavy-hitting creature, went flying. He even cracked a Jingshi's face like it was made of glass. Next up at number 5 is Turbo Granny. She vanished from the spotlight early, but without her, Okarun wouldn't even be on this list. If she hadn't lost her powers early, Turbo Granny would have soloed 80% of the threats in the series. She also invented spiritual castration, which is stealing sausages and meatballs off every guy. Imagine if she'd had her full power during the Flatwoods scene, or against Evil Eye, or Danmara. She would have ended the arc in 3 panels and stolen someone's balls on the way out. Her signature move is pure relentless speed. She would hit 100 km per hour and catch anything that moved. People, cars, even a train, sandwiches, which she chased down in chapter 7. And unlike someone like Kashimoto, who relies on his icy flames, Granny is just a force of nature. She overwhelms you with speed and curses with no games and tricks. But she's not just fast, right? She can teleport through phone lines thanks to her knowledge of spirals and movement. Plus she can also turn into a spirit and possess people. And number 4 is Seiko Ayase. They say wisdom comes with age, but in Seiko's case, it comes with a baseball bat. Unlike Turbo Granny who focuses only on speed, Seiko does sort of have it all. Raw strength, spiritual mastery, and decades of experience that puts her at the number 4 spot easily. Imagine if Seiko had been the one to fight Flatwoods, or the fairy tale card. Game over. She don't do long fights. She does quick exorcisms. If Seiko fought seriously, half the cast wouldn't even make it to past chapter 10. Back in chapter 47, she showed just how dangerous she can be. One swing of her arm sent Evil Eye crashing to the ground and left a crater where he landed. And she dodged all his attacks like it was nothing. In chapter 93, we saw her take down a Hokkaido yokai. She used her bat to overwhelm the monster, and shortly after, she used a Ganzan Daishi charm to destroy the monster completely, which was basically a delete button in her hands. Later in chapter 177, we saw how good she is with her hands. She beat the crap out of an entire Jiangshi group with the help of Kashimoto and Pyasi. And number 3, we've got the warmongering Kur, a full-blown alien race straight out of a cosmic nightmare. They don't just conquer worlds, they wear their victims as armor, and Earth was next on their list. While Seiko has raw power, spiritual mastery, and decades of experience, the Kur overwhelm their enemies with advanced alien tech and sheer numbers. The Kur seem scary, but they're nothing without their exosuits. They aren't actually just aliens, they're straight up galactic conquerors. The difference was that they could not survive without their bodysuits. And the creepy part is that their bodysuits are actual, like dead bodies of their victims. The moment they landed on Earth, they defeated the Serpo and stole their tech. In chapter 77, 4 of them jumped Okarun like it was an alien group project, and 2 others attacked Aira and Gigi. Okarun got taken down and lost his Kintama because the Kur wanted it to power their portal. Aira and Gigi fought hard but barely made it out. Eventually the whole squad regrouped and managed to beat the Kur's advanced unit, but then the real army came through the portal. That's when our girl Reiko Kashima stepped in. And number 2 is her, Reiko Kashima. She's beautiful, deadly, and completely psycho. Like an ex who got your name tattooed but still cheated on you. Like why? But what can she do with just a piece of glass? I don't know, create peak nightmare? If Reiko fought Seiko head on, the grandma would lose. Reiko Kashima is also known as a slit-mouthed woman, and hands down the strongest yokai in Dandadan. She wiped out the entire Kur army with a mirror. She's a little vain, crazy, and very obsessed with her appearance. The thing is that Reiko loves ugly things because they make her look better. Reiko logic, ugly make me look pretty. Therefore I love ugly. Congratulations, you just became her bestie. Yeah, you, looking at the screen. She also hates being called ugly and would lose it if anyone messed with her mirror. Wow, that reminds me of my sister growing up. But the weird thing is, unlike most women on Tinder, she's actually beautiful without makeup. But for some reason, she still also wears makeup. Her power is completely based on mirrors. She can project parts of her body like her hands through any reflective surface, including shards of glass. We see her using this power in her fight against Momo in chapter 75, using it to completely overpower her. That's not all. She can also trap people in the mirror. She did this to Bamora and Momo. She even trapped the entire Kur army once before destroying them. She also had the ability to spy and possess people through mirrors and read people's hearts and emotions. And she can also mimic anyone's voice perfectly. In chapter 78, she tricked Momo by pretending to be Okarun, and it almost worked. And at the top spot is Count Saint Germaine. All we know about this guy is that we know nothing. Just like Reiko Kashima, we only see Count a couple of times, but in that short time we saw his power. He's easily the strongest character in Dandadan. I mean, he even beat Granny Seiko in just a few moves. Nobody else on this list, except maybe Reiko, can come close to that. Reiko dominates with overwhelming power and eerie mirror-based abilities. Germaine takes a more precise and strategic approach, stealing powers from those who surrender and using them with finesse. One is a force of nature, the other is a master tactician. To start off, he's got some insane speed and next level reflexes. He's also got a sixth sense that warns him of incoming attacks. In chapter 161, while fighting against the fairy tale card, he was able to dodge every strike from the yokai, despite the fact that he had no eyes at the time. And as you know, the other thing is if someone admits defeat to him, he can take their powers and store it in a little knife that he carries around, called a kogai. During battle, all he has to do is slot one of the kogai into his sword and boom, he's able to use that power. The only limit is that he can only use one kogai at a time. This is seen in chapter 161 where he switches between multiple kogai, the water tiger, the jumping crone, and the black hair cutter. After he beat up Granny Seiko, she called him Enenra, a smoke yokai. Aliens and yokai clearly rule the top of the strongest creatures. But who do you think are the strongest humans in Dandadan?